Hello guys, welcome back. Now today's video is going to be about who will be the ultimate buyer, at least at the trade deadline. Now, I have 14 teams listed here. I'm going to narrow it down to one. Now we're going to start with the Eastern Conference. We're going to start with the Tampa Bay Lightning, who has 38 wins on the season. They're the best team in the league right now, at least points-wise. They have a cap space of $1.925 million, so they're decently above the cap at least. They still have a bit of money there, and they can make a decent amount of moves. They aren't stuck like a couple of teams on this list, so that's a lot better for them. They got 44 contracts on their books, so they can still make quite a few moves at the deadline, apparently, if they want to. I don't even know if the Tampa Bay Lightning need to. They might want to add a defenseman, maybe Mike Green, but they'll have to retain some contract or bring a contract back, or the Red Wings will, to obviously get that, since Mike Green has like $6 million on that. But there's like quite a few defensemen that the Tampa Bay Lightning could get. I think that should be the best road that they get, maybe acquire a defender, but I think that's about it for them. I think that's the only thing that they should do. Now we'll go to the Bruins, who have 5 wins on the season. They have a cap space of $730K, so they're not too below the salary cap. They still got not a ton of money, but not terrible. They still got some moves that they can make with that. They have 43 contracts on the books, so they aren't completely tied. If they're going to get a good player there, they're going to have to take, or the team that they're going to have to get from is going to have to take somebody back. So they're a little bit restricted on that end, but for the contracts, they should be good. But for the cap space, they are going to have to put back a player to the team that they're bringing back. So for the Bruins, though, on team perspective, I don't even know if they should make any moves, just because their team is looking so good right now. Everything is looking fantastic for them, the offense, the defense, and the goaltending. I don't really know if they should even make a move. I don't even know if they should do anything. They might want to. They might want to get Rick Nash, who looks like a pretty decent fit in Boston, if that does pull out. But I don't even know if the Bruins should go after anyone, and I don't even know if the GMs think that. I think that as well, because they're really doing the best that they can really do right now, and I don't even know if they should change that. I don't think that they should. Now let's move on to the Leafs, who had 35 wins on the season. They have 50 contracts on their books, so I don't even know if they can really make any moves. They have 0 cap space. That's what it says on Cap Friendly. They have 0 cap space, and really that's a little bit of a problem there. They're going, if they want to make any trades, any moves to bring in a player, of course they're going to have to give a player back, because they're literally as restricted as you can be. 0 cap space and 0 contracts available. They're as restricted as they really can be. So I don't even know if they should do anything. I really, my opinion on the Leafs right now for the trade deadline is that really I don't even know if they should do anything. I just don't think that they should make any moves. They look fine right now. The defense is a little bit shaky at times, but when it's good, it's pretty good, and when it's bad, of course, it is bad. But I don't even know if they should make any moves. I think that they should stick with their young core, go with what they got, and go with their strengths. I don't know if they have too many weaknesses, and really they can't really fix it too much unless they give up cap players like Tyler Bozak or something like that. They're really tight, restricted right now, and they really can't do much. So in that perspective, I really don't think that they can do much, and I don't think that they really should. Then we'll slide over to the Capitals, who have 32 wins on the season. They're currently leading the Metro Division. They have 412K cap space, so they don't have too much there. They have 44 contracts, though, so they do have the roster space for more players to bring up. But they don't have too much cap space. They're going to have to bring a guy back if they want to make a trade. And then really 44 contracts, it is flexible, but with their cap space, they don't have too many options. For the Capitals situation, I've already talked about this in the Capitals video that I made yesterday, but I don't know if they should really make any moves. I think that they're good right now. Maybe add a defenseman at most, but I don't know how they're going to do that with their cap space. I see that they should just stay put, just keep the pressure away from them, and I think they'll be good. I think that's what they should do. Now, so far, we can cross the Capitals, the Leafs, and the Bruins off for the ultimate buyer here. The Lightning are a maybe, but I want to count them as the ultimate team to buy here at the deadline. Now on to the Penguins, who have 32 wins on the season. They got a cap space of $199K, so they're really strapped cap-wise still. They got 45 contracts. They're in a kind of similar situation to the Capitals. They have the roster spots, but they don't really have the cap space. So I don't foresee them making too many moves. Maybe a couple of depth guys, but I can see that's about it. I don't see them making a big trade, but hey, they could blow us out of the water here. And then you got the Flyers, who could be very, very interesting. They got 28 wins. I think they're third in the Metropolitan. They got $2 million, $2.44 million. They got 40. They got 45. They have 45 roster spots, so they have quite a bit of room here. They got 3-4 roster spots that they could fill there, and more than $2 million in the cap. They could widen the gap, and it could make an opening for a pretty big trade there. It isn't too much. It isn't going to give you a $7 million player just like that, but you're going to have to take back a little bit, and maybe the Flyers can make some sort of deal where they get a player, very good player, and give out a very good player. It could be something along the lines of maybe getting some more defense, getting a veteran guy on the defense, or just getting another guy on the forward group, and maybe even getting a goaltender. Who knows? Flyers have lots of options here, and I could foresee them doing something big. They might be the guy. They might be the team to be the best buyer at the deadline. I'm not saying that they'll make the most trades or the biggest trades at the deadline, but I can see them being a surprise team to make a lot of trades here. Then I got the Devils, who have 28 wins. Same with the Flyers. I think they're in a wildcard spot right now. They got $7.73 million in cap space. That is the biggest, I think, on this list. They got loads of cap space. Of course, they got lots of young players who have developed and played well this season. That's why they don't have too much on the cap. They're not spending too much on the veterans. They're spending a lot of time and a lot of ice time with the young guys, so the cap space isn't up there as you think it would be. But the more than $7 million on the cap is really, really good. If they wanted to get Rick Nash, they wouldn't even have to retain anything if they wanted to give up a draft pick for him. The Devils have 46 contracts on their books, so they got still a couple of contracts that they can bring back to their organization. It's more than $7 million on the cap. They can make a very, very interesting move with that cap space. Of course, it gives you more freedom to do whatever they want to do, and really, they can make a big, big splash. I could see the Devils wanting to get a big forward, maybe even a big defenseman and a very, very good defenseman. I don't see them doing anything goaltending wise because I think that's pretty obvious. They got Schneider there, but they got some options there definitely. They got the forward group, the defensive group, and they could fix both of them. They might want to do some smaller deals and fix both of them at the same time, but they can make it a very, very interesting move there. Now on to the Western Conference. We'll go to the Predators. 34 wins on the season. They got $3.819 million on the cap, so they're not too restricted on the cap-wise. They're bringing back Mike Fisher, which obviously brings it back down a little bit more, but they got 43 contracts on the book. On the books, and they can make a big move here. They might want to get a forward. They've been in the trade talks with guys like Pacioretty for a long, long time. They could bring back another forward, another great forward if they wanted to. They could bring back a defenseman. They've been looking in the rumors. I found it really funny that they were looking. The rumors said that they were looking for another defenseman, and I kind of chuckled at that because their defense is already good enough. But they want to get some more on that, and they can definitely do that. Their top six, at least their bottom pair, is looking a tiny bit weak. They could definitely improve that. On the forward group, though, they have a little bit of some weak spots there, and they could look to improve that to really solidify them as the contender of the West, and they could really make a big move here. Still, $3 million in the cap, it leaves a little bit of options up there, and they could definitely make a big splash. Now we go into the Jets, who I think is one of the more interesting teams going into the deadline. They got 33 wins. They got $5.63 million in cap space right now. They got 42 contracts on the books, and 42 contracts is the lowest on this list. It's tied with a couple other teams, but 42 contracts is the lowest on this list. They can make lots of moves, especially with more than $5 million on the cap or available. The Jets are a very interesting team because they've been kind of injured a little bit these past couple of months, and they could look to improve the forward group there. They could definitely make a gigantic move. I can see them getting Pacioretty, maybe even Hoffman. They look like a good destination there. They could definitely use them. The offense is already lethal enough, but imagine Hoffman on that top six. Oh, that would just be brutal. I want not to face that in the playoffs, but their forward group is fantastic, but they could even look to improve it more. So, and the defense it's decent, but they could look to improve that also. And of course, you got the goaltenders already there with Hellebuck. They can make very interesting moves right now. They can be a surprise team to make the best trades out of the whole NHL. They can really make this gigantic splash, and with the cap space, they're a contender, and they have the contracts to boot. I think that they can make a gigantic splash, and they'd be probably the most interesting team. I'm going to predict that they are the best buyer at the deadline. Now, that's just my prediction. It probably won't be true, but we'll see. Next in the Western Conference, we got the St. Louis Blues, who have 34 wins on the season. They got $297K in cap space, so they don't have too much on the cap room. They don't have too many moves to make. Even though they have 42 contracts, which is tied for the lowest on this list, they still don't have the cap space to really compensate for that. They get some depth guys. maybe afford that. But unless they have to give somebody back for a guy like Pacioretty, who they've been swirling around the rumors for a while, I don't see it happening. I don't see too many moves being made. The Blues are looking good right now. They're really on a hot streak since, I'd say, All-Star break. And they've been playing fantastic. Their forward group has been lining up. Tarasenko was finally getting hot again. The defense has been great as ever. And, of course, they got Hutton, who surprisingly is their starter. So I don't know if they're going to make any moves. The Blues could make some moves, but they're going to have to give some guys back for the cap. But they got the contracts to boot, so maybe they can. I doubt it, but maybe they can. Next up on the Pacific Division, you got the Golden Knights, who had 37 wins. They got more than $8 million in cap space. Yeah, that's pretty ridiculous. They got 43 contracts on the books, so they can make a gigantic move if they want to. Though, I don't know if they should, because necessarily the morale of the team and just the gelling that has come together from this team has been amazing. I think that every guy on this team has really gelled together. And really, I think putting up like a star like Rick Nash to Vegas, I don't think it'll really work for them. I don't think it'll really work, because the Vegas Golden Knights are all about chemistry and banding together as a team, and acquiring a guy like Rick Nash, who doesn't really know the system all too well, I think will kind of hurt them a little bit. I don't know if the Golden Knights should make any moves. Maybe a couple of depth guys, but I think that's about it. In my eyes, they really shouldn't go for any guys. Even though they have the cap space and the contracts, I just don't think that they'll go for anybody. I don't think that they really should, so I think that's a smart decision there. And then next you got the Sharks, who have 30 wins on the season. They're at least second in the Pacific Division. They got more than $5 million on the cap, or below the cap. They got $5.67 million below the cap, so they got some room there. They got 46 contracts, so they can make a couple of moves there. I've been looking at the Sharks for a long time. They're very interesting because they look like they could need a forward depth, more forward superpower on that team. But then they go out and score 5 goals, and it worries me because they're inconsistent a little bit, and they maybe want a couple of spare pieces there. On defense, I think they can be a little bit better. Martin Jones hasn't been that great this season. But on offense, they're decent, but they could look to add a guy. I think Rick Nash, again, is a good fit there. They might want to add a couple guys there, and they might want to make a big splash. They could. San Jose usually doesn't, but we'll see, especially this trade deadline. Anything can happen. Then we'll go to the Flames, who have 29 wins. They have $2 million in cap space, 46 contracts. They can make a couple moves, but I think they'll sit pretty right now. They've been a little bit hot. They've been a little bit cold, though. Their goaltenders have been, of course, Mike Smith has been fantastic this season. Their defense might want to do some work. I didn't even expect to say this, because at the beginning of the season, I thought their defense was fantastic. At least top 3 in the league, but then the defense kind of has shuttered this season. It hasn't really been all that great. They might want to add a couple of pieces there. On offense, I think they're pretty good. The top 6 is very, very solid, but they might want to add a couple of guys, maybe for the third line, for not a cup run, but for a playoff run. They are looking good, though. I think they will make the playoffs, but it's just about what they will add and what they want to add, because I don't know how much they want to really tamper with the chemistry and the team there, but they might want to make some moves, and they definitely could. Now, last on this list, we'll go to the Kings, who have 30 wins on the season. They've already made one trade technically already with the Footnough trade. They got more than $3 million in the cap, or below the cap of $3.19 million available in cap space. They got 43 contracts, so they can make a couple more big moves. They've already made one already with the Footnough trade, but they can make a couple of ones. They kind of need a little bit more offensive depth, but they're also pretty decent in there. The defense, they're pretty solid. I thought the Footnough trade was kind of fixing that. And really, I don't think that the Kings need anybody, really. I think that they're pretty solid in front, so I don't think that they really need anybody. And I don't think they really need to make any moves. Alright, so now that we talked about all the teams here on my list here, I'm going to just go on a leg and say that the Philadelphia Flyers will make not really the most big moves, but probably the most trades overall. I think that they could use some of that forward depth and use some of that defensive depth. I mean, their forward depth is abysmal right now. They're getting carried by that first line of Couturier, Voracek, and Giroux. They could really use some forward depth there, and I think that they could get some, especially from the deadline. They have cap space, and of course, they got a few contracts on there. Goaltending, they could use an upgrade. They might want to get somebody from the deadline. I don't know how realistic that is. If they want to make a big splash with a giant goaltender going back to Philadelphia, I don't know how they'll do that necessarily, but they could definitely do that if they really wanted to. And of course, getting some more defensive depth, I think that is a obvious choice for the Flyers. Getting some veteran leadership there on the defense. Really, the young defense on there is good, but it's lacking the veteran leadership that they really do need. I think the Flyers could use that as well. So really, they got a lot of things that they do need. Even though they're a good team, they do got lots of holes, and I think that they might want to go for it at this trade deadline and make not really a playoff run, but a cup run. but just a playoff push, and I think they will make the playoffs. But even if they make some trade deadline moves here, I think that they will help them, especially with the defensive forward group, as I said before. But still, there are other teams that could make huge splashes, like the Devils. Again, the Jets might, but again, their GM just hates making moves, and really, they could make some giant moves. The Devils can. The Jets could also, as well. The Knights might want to. The Flames could. I mean, the Pacific Division has lots of teams that could want to do that. But there's lots of options here. I'm just going off a limb saying the Flyers, but there's lots of teams that could make gigantic moves. But, of course, this trade deadline is seeming to be a little bit slower and a little bit worse than past trade deadlines. Of course, I don't really fully get that. I think that it'll be better than the last trade deadline, but I think that some teams might want to hold off a little bit, and some teams might want to also just go for it. So I think that there's going to be a big contrast here. Teams just going for it and teams just holding steady. But I think that the Flyers will make a lot of moves here. But, of course, that is subjective, and you could say a lot of other teams, and you can give the reasons why. That's good today, guys. Like and subscribe if you have not. Ring that bell if you haven't. Tell me down below which team you think will make the most trades at the deadline, and maybe probably the biggest trade at the deadline. And I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.